So Buddy Hield is making it pretty obvious that he wants to get traded. Between the stuff that we already knew before the season was suspended, and now there's this thing about him not answering Luke Walton's calls, and there was the whole putting Buddy on the bench and having Bogdan be the starter, and there's liked posts of him suggesting that he's really paying attention to what's happening in Philadelphia, and there was one about the Pacers or whatever. So I guess the first thing to say is there a chance that the relationship could be repaired between Buddy and the Kings front office? Or at least Luke Walton? It doesn't look great, we'll say that much. We do remember Buddy also had a bit of a thing with Dave Yeager as well. Now the thing with Yeager is he had 2 instances of this front office not liking him. So there's a chance that Dave Yeager is just really difficult to work with, and Buddy Hield was a recipient of that. In the case of Luke Walton, I mean, we all agree Luke Walton's not that good of a coach, so maybe Buddy Hield just realizes it as well. So as far as who we pin the blame on for this, I don't know. There's a chance it could end up being alright. There was a thing about the Kings are not super concerned, and they think he'll be ready to play, and they don't want to overreact to his phone calls or whatever else, so if you want to be an optimist. But there's also the idea of he gets traded. And if you wanted to be cynical, I think there's a way that you could say they should trade him even if everything was going fine, with the reasons being outside of his three-point shooting. Again, this is if you want to be cynical about Buddy Hield. You could say outside of his three ball, he's not that great of a player. I mean, his defense, his playmaking, his shot creation, hell, even his efficiency isn't as awesome as you'd really like it to be. And you could also say that the Kings need more guys who can do stuff off the dribble. Another reason you could be cynical about Buddy is that he shoots very few free throws, and that does tank his efficiency a bit. Because instead of extra trips to the line, he is attempting about 1/5 of his shots from mid-range, and for as great of a shooter as Buddy is, he's not an amazing mid-range guy. I mean, he's cool, don't get me wrong, and you could say his percentages last year were very good, but they dipped down this year, and when you combine that with the lack of free throws he attempts, overall it makes him not as great of a scorer as you might think he is. But again, if he's on a different team, then perhaps that could really unlock it. Anyway, we get to ideas for what the Kings should want. I mean, I would want an actual player. We're going to talk about the Sixers real quick here, because that's the team that everybody's talking about with Buddy. If I was the Kings, I would not want Al Horford. I know Sixers fans are throwing around Horford for Hield as if the Kings have no say in this, but if I was the Kings and you were going to give me Horford for Hield, you'd have to give me, at minimum, 2 first-round picks. Now, maybe the Kings believe that if they put Horford at center next to Bagley, that they could be good defensively and Horford could help them out with the passing and spacing the floor and all that. I know they wanted him this previous offseason, so maybe they would do anything to get him. I don't know. But even so, as I look at the Sixers and what the Kings might want, are we really sure that there's a move there? I mean, Richardson is their best asset, I would say. $10 million and all that. But his offense regressed after last season with Miami. Maybe the Kings would think that they could have his offense pop a little bit more, but other than that, it's Thibault, which the Sixers are not going to give him up. So, I don't know. I don't think there's an obvious Buddy Hield to the Sixers move unless the Sixers just wanted to shell out picks. I mean, even if you put together Richardson, Shake Milton, and Mike Scott, that gets you to about $17 million. Buddy Hield makes 24, and I don't know if it's really there. I mean, no one actually thinks the Kings would want Tobias Harris's contract, right? I would hope not, at least. If we move on to other teams, this is the thing with Hield. Because he's already under contract for a while, you could picture anybody trading for him. I could picture the Knicks making a move for Buddy Hield if they really wanted him. I don't really think they have the players that the Kings would want, but they have the picks at least. I mean, a lot of the things I said about the Victor Oladipo move, I'm going to be saying about Hield here. Is this a Karis LeVert trade? Maybe. You'd think that Hield would be able to play off of Kyrie and KD better, but I think Karis has a higher ceiling than Buddy Hield. Orlando would love to have him for the same reason I mentioned the Magic whenever a guy who can shoot becomes available. Do we think the Kings would want Aaron Gordon? I don't know if it's a great fit, given the amount of power forward center dudes they have, and they still have to figure out Bagley's position. Is he a center? Is he a 4? The Lakers can trade their first round pick on draft night, and between Danny Green's $15 million expiring, you add Kuzma to that gets you to about 17. I think Quinn Cook's contract gets you to 20. Is that close enough to where you can trade for Buddy Hield's 24? Maybe, but unless the Kings really loved the hell out of Kyle Kuzma, I don't think that one happens. I'm pretty sure Danny Green doesn't have a no-trade clause, right? That's only if you re-sign with your current team for a 2-year deal or something. And he didn't re-sign with the Lakers. They were a new team for him at whatever it may be. I don't know if there's a real pathway for Houston to get him. I don't think Denver would want him. The Clippers have no picks, as we all know. I don't think OKC is going to make a swing with any of their picks on Buddy Hield. I guess if Dallas really wanted him, we could see a Buddy Hield for Tim Hardaway and Stuff move, but the Mavs draft pick situation is not too awesome, although they could move their pick on draft night, similar to the Lakers. I think Buddy on the Spurs is kind of interesting, but I don't know if the players moving would really entice the Kings too much, and I don't expect the Spurs to want to give up any picks. Would the Pelicans want Buddy Hield back? I don't know, man. I guess we can move on to the East. I've mainly been talking about the West, other than the Nets or whatever. I mean, there is an Ibaka sign and trade for Buddy Hield there if Toronto really wanted Hield, but you could argue Ibaka is more valuable for Toronto than signing or acquiring Buddy Hield would be. I guess if the Celtics thought that Gordon Hayward would make the team too expensive, that could be a move. I mean, Hield's contract goes down, which would kind of fit in perfectly for the Celtics, given that Tatum's about to get a max and whatever else, but I would rather just have Hayward if I was the Celtics. I already mentioned the Oladipo for Buddy Hield swap, but I'll just repeat it here. The only 2 teams I've got left that I'm thinking about for Hield are the Bucks and the Cavs. Very different situations. I mean, for the Kings' sake, it would be like Kevin Love for Buddy Hield. For the Cavs' sake, it's get younger and get a guy who can actually be good. For the sake of the Bucks, I mean, they don't really have the players the Kings would want, and outside of this year's Pacers pick, the Bucks can't move that many of their picks because they're locked up in protections unless they were going to trade one that was way out there a bit. Or if the Kings would just love some Bucks second rounders, but I have to imagine they wouldn't. Even if I make it sound like I can't find some trade that I love for Buddy Hield, I do think his market would be pretty good. I mean, between the shooting and his contract that goes down every year, I think you could find quite a few teams who would be interested in him. But for the sake of the Kings, it might be better to just hope you can get him to buy in and you figure it out with the roster you have, because, I mean, look, the Kings, they're the Kings. Maybe they've been a little better lately. Well, I don't remember. I mean, the Bagley pick, Luka, we get that one. But, you know, from their perspective, they could look at this and say, look, we got some talent, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, Bogdan. Bielitsa is a good role player. And if Bagley is healthy, then perhaps they could be exciting. And we forget just, you know, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever you want to say, they were the surprise of the NBA. Whether that means much right now, not really. But I think there's some reason for optimism. I don't think the Kings need to just be in this position of like, well, screw it. We got to move off of Hield and try something else. But maybe Buddy Hield's going to force their hand with that one. We'll see what happens.